EntrepreNINES. My name is John Wist.
And I'm Bonni Mace. We're two Enneagram 9s who took the big leap into the world of entrepreneurship at a similar time, and this podcast is a space where we are inviting you to laugh and learn with us as we work to build businesses with soul. This is episode 28.
28. And we are continuing our series on how our nine-ness shows up in our business through the core motivations of a 9. And we're at the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is it, unless you lovely people allow us to do a bonus episode.
Which so far, I'll double check as we're talking right now. But
okay.
So far is not happening.
Oh.
But yeah.
This is part of it. I guess that's also part of it when you're specifically talking to Enneagram 9s, because as we'll talk about, even in today's episode, we think, they don't mean me.
Yeah. Why do they need to hear from me?
My presence doesn't matter.
We currently don't have any voice.
It's not my voice they want to hear from. Well, you know what, 9s? It is you we want to hear from.
Your voice matters, and so we want to actually hear the real thing.
Yeah.
The real voice.
Yeah.
But yes.
You know what? It's okay. We will have fun.
Yeah.
Bonus episode or not.
It's true. We're going to enjoy ourselves.
But I would have more fun with bonus episode.
Yeah. All right. So core motivation, desire. Yeah.
I will say, if you want to catch up on the series, it starts back at which episode?
24.
Right?
Yeah, because we did 24 was like our intro.
Yeah.
25, 6, and 7 have been the other motivations so far.
I link them in the show notes so you can go back and listen to each one. And today we're talking about core. Whoa, I just forgot the name of it. Core longing. We don't edit this podcast. You guys all get that brain fart.
Oh, core longing. Yeah, I said that wrong. So I said it wrong first. That's why we're messed up.
Oh.
I said desire.
Oh yeah, we already did that.
We did that.
Yeah.
So my apologies.
It's okay. Core longing.
Core longing. Okay, tell us what a 9's core longing is.
Okay, so core longing is basically a message that if you've heard it and truly believed it, you'd be able to operate out of a confident, content, peace-filled space. So for us, it is the phrase, your presence matters.
Yeah.
John. You squirmed.
Yeah, it does.
Your presence matters.
My presence matters. So funny story. Can I start with a funny story? Kind of. Okay.
Always.
So, so we just had a weekend where Lauren worked all weekend, and I decided that we would take the kids to Ocean City, which is where both her and my parents live, and there was bull riding all weekend long. And so it's like, sweet, like let's take the big kids to see some bull riding. And my mother-in-law was going to watch our youngest. And so it was great. We are borrowing / maybe gonna, I don't know, transfer ownership of my mom's car to us because our Subi is gone.
R.I.P.
Yeah. But so it's a very small car, but it's a hybrid. And it gets like 50 miles a gallon.
Whoop, whoop.
Which is amazing. And so we're like taking that to Ocean City. Also, you were borrowing our van.
Yes, we were borrowing your van. Speaking of dead Subarus.
Yeah. So drive down goes fantastic. All the kids sleep in the car. Drive home on Saturday goes fantastic. All the kids sleep in the car. Sunday, still have the car because Lauren is working.
And we still have
the van. Go to church. 2 minutes down the road, explosion of frustration from our 3 children who are tightly packed into the back seat. Very stressful drive to church.
Because it's like almost 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, on the way back. Explosion of frustration in the back of the car. So it's like, all right, everybody stop on the way home. And I start talking to them about look, you guys have done a great job in this car all weekend, but you got to keep your hands to yourself. This isn't hard. We're going to be home in 10 minutes at that point. And I'm talking them through it. And Evelyn says, can you just stop talking?
No.
And it hit this deep thing within me. And it's this thing that I've had to explain to Elliot before too, which is that
Sorry, I'm laughing at your pain.
I've learned as a 9, and learning that I was a 9 has actually helped me to understand this point, which is that when I speak and I feel like people don't hear me, it breaks a part of my soul and causes me to feel like I need to repeat myself until I'm heard.
Yeah.
And this is slightly different than like, I feel like it's slightly different than the core longing, but it's like a hint of it. Like it's a hint of like the same core longing. Like it's a maybe a symptom of the core longing, which is like, I do feel like there are times where I have something important to say and I really would like that to be heard. And if I feel like it's not heard, then I feel like I have to keep saying it over and over and over again until it's heard. And then if I really don't feel like it's heard, then I'm just completely depressed and dejected.
Same.
Yeah. And so I feel like even with my kids, it's a thing. But yeah, it definitely, like, that's a personal side, obviously, but like, yeah, I mean, it shows up in business all the time. And I think something that I just actually talked about with my counselor in my latest counseling session was like the fear of rejection, right? And so I feel like because we said we wanted to kind of talk about both sides of this, right? Like there's the good side and the bad side. On the bad side, like I do think that there is a temptation to not put yourself out there over fear of rejection, because that just even deepens.
It confirms that your presence doesn't matter.
Yes. It deepens this reality that like, oh my gosh, I really don't matter because I just put myself out there and they rejected me. And so
they said, not only does your presence not matter, I don't want it here.
Yeah. No. You may not enter my space. And so, yeah. I do feel that. I feel that often.
Yes, I will say in parenting too, for myself, this one shows up a lot, and repeating myself has always been a pet peeve. And for a long time, I blame that on the fact that through most of my life, my dad can't hear very well. So like that was just like a pet peeve. But same thing for you. Like once I learned about like my enneagram 9-ness and some of the motivations, and realized like, oh, it's not just that repeating myself is exhausting and physically annoying. It's that it's confirming to me that I'm not worth hearing, like that my presence doesn't matter, and all of these things. So yes, parenting for me often brings out the worst. Even our kids right now, even both of them are on like a strong. We had in-laws over the weekend, and I call it the granny hangover. Yeah. And it's rough.
It's rough. Yeah.
Because not only do they not want to hear me, they're also annoyed that I'm talking to them at all because I'm not giving them what they want.
Yeah.
Without abandon.
You are not granny. You're not giving me what you want.
You're handing me your phone for 45 minutes endlessly. Yeah. So it can be rough, but we're not here to talk about parenting.
No.
We're here to talk about this in their business. So you're kind of talking about, just to clarify, the good side and the bad side.
Yeah.
And so what I mentioned before we started is that it kind of shows up like when you believe that your presence matters, then you can take positive, healthy action.
Yes.
So that's what you're talking about for the good side.
Yeah.
And then when you don't believe that this is true, you start going towards your unhealthy, like stress side. Yeah. And that's what John is talking about, like the bad side.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah. And it's hard work to believe that your presence matters.
Yes.
And so that's just something to keep in mind, that it's much easier to default to, well, I'm not sure that my presence matters right now, so I'm just gonna not make the call and be rejected. I'm gonna not follow up with this person. I'm gonna whatever.
Yeah. I mean, what does that look like for you so let's like, I feel like it's easy to pick out the bad, and I'm sure more examples will come as we talk, because that's sometimes what we default to. So like, but what's an example for you of the good side? Like when you are believing that your presence matters, what are the things what's the fruit that comes of that?
Usually I actually say what I mean.
Okay.
And so I think right now, like the way that shows up for me is like I continue to practice writing, or I like jump onto stories and actually share something that is meaningful.
Yeah.
Or, and then usually like honestly what happened. So the thing I can think of most recently is there was all this like drama you might know about a major corporation that people are unhappy with.
Yeah.
Now on all sides.
Yeah.
Because of how they handled the first bit of unhappiness.
Yeah.
And I'm just not going to get into that.
Yeah.
However.
Yeah.
It was happening. My internets was exploding with everybody being angry. And I was done with it. And so I jumped on my stories and I just shared like a little bit of like, hey, I want you guys to know, because this is my strong opinion.
Yeah.
Like all of this stuff is going to be amplified in the next couple of years because we're running up to a very like
contentious.
Yes, contentious is the word. Presidential election season.
Yep.
And it's already hot and heavy. And it's hot and heavy because of it's hot and heavy because there's a ton of people duking it out on the Republican side right now. And so everything is going to feel like outrage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I got on my stories and I talked about this. And I had lots of people positively respond to it. And I lost followers that day too.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I actually went back and kind of like reviewed and was like, oh, what was this day? I lost like a couple followers. What's going on? And then I saw my stories and I was like, oh, this is the day. And it was barely anything.
Yeah.
However, it was on my brand and I was telling people, here's what you should do if you like click on a story and it's full of outrage.
Right.
You know, take some breaths, remember this. Anyway, so that's kind of how I show up I remember that my presence does matter, is I actually say things that are important.
You're right. Yeah.
And like that might be beneficial and that maybe people will leave, but because I was in that headspace, it was fine. You know, that people chose to unfollow me. I was like, wow,
yeah,
you can be angry all the time. That's fine with me. Right.
Well, also, I was going to say that like the lie that we tell ourselves is that if people, we just talked about this a little bit, like that if people in some way, shape or form, quote unquote, reject what we're saying or our presence or what we're doing, that's not necessarily a reflection on us. Mm-hmm. It's how they're perceiving or interpreting whatever we're offering.
Right.
It's not and this is the thing I had to learn actually in that counseling session was like, that rejection is not a reflection of me. It's a reflection of the preference that person has.
Yeah.
And so they prefer to do something like in a business situation, like they prefer to go to somebody else, or they prefer to not do it right now because they don't have the time or the resources to do it, or they prefer a different person's approach. For you, like they preferred to not be confronted with their own insecurities, and so they left. I don't know. Even that may not be completely it, but
outrageous drug friends.
Yeah.
I love it.
And so like, they preferred to not hear that anymore. Okay, well that's their choice. Mm-hmm. That's not a reflection of what I had to offer. Mm-hmm. And it's not to say necessarily that we don't assess what we offer, from time to time. But I think it is a reminder that often when people say no or are rejecting you in some way, it is a reflection of their preference, not you.
Yeah.
And so reminding yourself of that, I think, is an encouragement to keep saying, like, this is my preference. like me being present and offering certain kinds of wisdom is my preference. And so I'm going to keep doing that. And how people respond to that is their preference.
Yeah. There's certain things we control and don't. And I think for type 9s, we probably edit ourselves more often than a lot of the other types because we have to overcome the idea that our presence doesn't matter.
Right.
And like, who cares? I like I mentioned in a previous podcast, the Sahara Desert hears me better than anyone in my home right now. And sometimes that's how it just feels like doing anything or offering anything or having a business. It's just like, okay, I'm going to put all this effort in and it's going to be out there, and who cares? Like, for what?
Yeah.
My presence doesn't matter. So when you actually put something out there, you're having to like go back and challenge the lie part of this more often, and like just getting something, putting the effort in to like think about it
Yeah.
and then do the behind the scenes work.
Yep.
And then work up the nerve to hit publish or to call somebody or to, like create the product you're creating, whatever.
Yeah.
Just a lot.
Okay. So I'm having some thoughts, and I'm going to kind of just lay them out there for you because you're the Enneagram expert.
Okay.
And I want to hear your thoughts on it. But like, so we're talking about our longing is that we long to be heard and felt like we're
long to believe that our presence matters.
Presence matters, right? Okay. So my question / statement / thoughts is basically like, what's interesting about that is that's our core longing, is that our presence matters. And yet, because of kind of where we sit in the Enneagram spectrum, and because of how like our brains work, like we actually constantly work somewhat in opposite to that in some ways. Like thinking about like where we sit, like we're more prone to perfectionism in some ways because like we sit next to ones, and like so we like our kind of secondary nature for some of us is to like strain towards a 1. Like on the other side is an 8, which is like just in full conflict with 9 all the time. And so like there's always conflict there, right? And so, and at the same time in our strength, like we're going to a 3, so we're wanting to be highly efficient, and yet when we're on our weaker side, we are fearful of absolutely everything.
Yeah, everything could go wrong.
And like, so all of these like things are just like pulling us in like every other direction. Plus we have this deep desire like for everything to be peaceful and okay. And so like I'm thinking about like all of like just the way this all is constructed and thinking like,
touch of it all, John.
Oh my gosh. Like, so like I can understand where that longing comes from, because that longing is the opposite kind of all of that chaos. The opposite of all that chaos is like I'm present and it matters, and I'm loved and I'm known, and like all this, it just feels so good. And so it's kind of the opposite of that. And what makes me think of that a little bit is like, I think that personally for me in like business journey, right? Like over time, like my perfectionism and my desire for things to be a certain way before I present them, or my desire to make sure I edit myself before I enter a space or something like that, has slowly had to be whittled down because of the amount of time it takes. Like I am pouring so much time into constructing the person that I think needs to walk into the room to offer whatever I would need to offer.
That's a very good way to put it.
That I'm not actually walking into the room. Like I'm just taking time to construct that person, but they never get through the door. And so like we were talking about this beforehand, like I just joined a coaching group. It's been really great. There's only been 1 meeting so far. It's been fantastic. But something that the guy who's running it showed us was the way he pitches people. And it's an email with bullet points. And I was sitting there going, wait, I spent all this time putting together proposals, and you're telling me that you're like landing these huge clients with an email with bullet points. Okay, there's a different way. And it's like slowly breaking down this idea that like I have to have it all like beautiful and together before it goes into a space. And so just from like, that's kind of the example, but wanted to hear like your kind of more Enneagram centric view on some of that.
Well, that was very Enneagram centric, John. I was impressed with your memory of you got all the connections right. So that was good.
I was trying.
That's hard. It's 5 numbers. John's doing the work, friends. No, I think that's really, yes, because we believe our presence doesn't matter. Like we access both of those wings. And for me, when you were talking about like the 1 and the 8, I was like, oh, I access perfectionism because my 8 wing wants to make people pay attention to me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because like the 8 is, about power and control and not being taken advantage of. And as a 9, like we borrow that because we don't want to believe that our presence doesn't matter because it hurts so bad.
Right.
When that is confirmed for us.
Yeah.
And so I do realize that for me, when you're saying that, yes, I personally use perfectionism a lot of like, because if it is perfect and excellent, they have to pay attention.
Yeah. You have to look at me.
Yes. You have to tell me that this matters and that I matter and that I'm worth your time and you will tell me, like, because it's perfect.
Oh my gosh. That's funny.
So,
okay. Yeah.
So yeah, that is very interesting. Like, I think all of those things are at play and all of them can also be strengths. Like that is, something that there's Enneagram theory that says like, we have a little bit of all the personality types and it's learning to access all of them in balance.
Right.
That makes it good. But just talking about before we're aware, like I do think you having that conversation and me having that, I use perfectionism to control people.
Yeah.
1-8 kind of revelation is going to help me a little bit more in my recovering perfectionist journey.
Yeah.
Because I just hadn't been aware of that. So I think the biggest thing is to just like the Enneagram centric is just become aware of how all these things influence you.
Right.
More and what they're trying to influence. They're not actually trying to influence other people. They're trying to influence you into believing that your presence matters. Yeah. Like that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
All of those things. Yeah. Like we think we're doing it for other people. No.
Yeah.
It is not, I won't say selfishly motivated, but it is. We want to believe that our presence matters. And so we access all of these tools to get the affirmation from somebody else that we matter here. Yeah. And so.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like this is all just kind of coming together in the moment. Like I did not think about this beforehand.
You should see all the light bulbs about John.
So yeah, but it's also like, but also looking back at some of just even like the recent conversations or the recent like groups that I've been a part of that have kind of led to this moment. It's been about it. I think all of those things have been about like the way that I see myself, the way I see my business is skewed slightly in the sense that like I feel like I have to earn my way in to my presence mattering. And that's not wholly a correct way to view it, and it's also not that dependent on me. Like I have to take some of the burden off myself. Like because I can only show up with who I am and what I know. The other part of that is the receiving end. And I can't control that. Right. And I think that's where like...
Even with a perfect product, you cannot control that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, so like back to your stories point, right? Like, you're not a very offensive person, Bonni.
Oh, thanks.
like, I feel like it's hard for you to offend someone. And so like, for people to walk away, like, it's not about the product, right? Like, it's not about what you... It is about what you presented because what you presented triggered something. Right. But what you presented isn't necessarily the issue. Right. The issue lies completely outside of your control. And so I think that is and this is just the beginning of the journey for me because this has all been within the past week. Yeah. So like, you know, I have no idea to tell you what is going to happen from here or where to go from here. But what I'm just processing out loud, I guess, is like I control a lot less than I give myself credit for. Yeah. What I need to give myself credit for is what I can control and what I do know and what I am good at. Control that part, and just the rest is the rest. You know, and stop putting as much burden on myself to, like, as you're putting it, like force people to be like, your presence matters. Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to pay you for your
yeah.
In fact. Yeah, it's good. I mean, I do like even this conversation is helping me remember that a lot of like, for me, even jumping out of a full-time job, like I was getting a lot of affirmation that my presence mattered in ministry. Yeah. And it felt very difficult to walk away from, because honestly, it was a bit of a drug. Like, I could get affirmation from anyone at any moment.
Yep.
And I'm not saying don't be encouraging to people, but like, also, nines, be aware of what encouragement feels like sometimes, of just this affirmation that your presence matters, and is that in the right place. And so for me, like, the work of starting my own business and trying to do something with coaching and like even writing what I think on the internet or for myself or whatever, is just like it's been an act to stretch myself to believe that my presence matters. And there have definitely been times in this 1.5 year journey where I'm like, this is all stupid. I suck at this. Like, I'm failing. And then I eventually get back down to when I think clearly and I go on a walk and, do the things that are healthy for me.
Yeah.
I remember literally showing up at your desk today was an act of defiance against the lie that you believe, that my presence doesn't matter.
Yep.
And so that's kind of an unleaf for all the entrepreneurs out there. It's just like, just showing up sometimes is enough.
Yeah.
To say, like, my presence matters.
Yeah.
Even if you don't do anything for the world to see, like, you showing up to the desk that day or to the field or whatever the case, wherever you're showing up.
Yeah.
Is enough to lean into the core longing of believing that your presence matters. So
that's really good. I think, look, I say leave it there, because I feel like that's good encouragement. I feel like you don't need to say anything else. It's just show up. Just show up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because it takes enough energy for us as nines, literally, to just show up. I believe. Like, I think that takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of courage and takes a lot of confidence. And like, if you can do that, then you're at least opening yourself up to the potential that like something else is going to come from that. Yeah.
And some days it's a lot harder just to get to the desk in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And so recognizing that is what it is, and that's not a flaw or like whatever, but it's part of our humanness. Yeah. we all have a humanness, to overcome. So yeah.
So, well, I don't want to shut it down. If you have more, we can talk more, but I feel like that's a great way to just let our friends be encouraged to just show up.
Yeah. So. Let your presence matter.
Yeah.
And believe that your presence matter. I'm curious, John, like when you think about it this way, and you start to think about like the next little bit, I think that metrics help. Like I was just saying, I got this affirmation all the time in my last job.
Yeah.
And it made me realize, like, I don't have a healthy gauge for this. Like, I have I'm showing up. I'm believing that my presence matters. But, like, I feel a compulsion to put it in a measurable outside of myself way. So, for you, what might that look like? Like,
the metric.
Yeah. Like, how can you look outside of yourself and say, okay, my presence matters, and that motivates me to show up today?
Well, I think oftentimes what I've found is I need somebody else who has just a little bit, at least a little bit of insight into my business, into what I'm doing, enough to say, well, what actually happened? Like in this, so like, for example, like Lauren, my wife, like she has enough insight to say, well, did you get that contract signed? Well, yeah. Okay, so you have a new client. Yay! like, hello. And so like just enough having someone who you can talk to and who can say to you, what's the truth here? Like, what's reality here? And you can actually look back and be like, oh, yeah. They did say yes. I do matter to them. Is sometimes enough for me to be encouraged to just like take the next step, right? And so I think some of it is having someone like that. Also, I think that maybe not. So for me, it's probably a little bit more difficult because I'm terrible at social media, and I like it's a place that I think on some level I need to get better, but on another level I'm just totally rejecting it. So on a like, but I do think something that's been helpful more recently that I'm trying to do is to just prioritize the things that I think are important. So like looking at my week and saying what's actually important for me to get done here. And sometimes that is working on my website. Sometimes that is trying something new. Like I've been trying to like kind of mess with like SEO on my website, and that's a little frustrating, but like just trying to like mess with some things and see what happens. Sometimes it's I have started trying to like create some ideas for blog posts for my website and for potential YouTube channel stuff and things like that. So sometimes it's just being willing to take time out of your normal workday to say, I'm going to set aside some time for these kind of maybe special projects that like I really want to do. Yeah. And then to be able to look back at the end of the day and say, yeah, like I actually accomplished something. Like I did not move the needle on this paying client maybe, but I moved the needle on something else. Like investing in yourself, like joining this coaching group. Like I already know day one that it was a good investment, and it's something I have pushed back against because I didn't feel like I had the money or the time to do it. And right now I'm a little busier than I've been before, and I have less money than I did before. so ironic. But now is the time where it's like, no, you need to stop fighting this and just do it. And so like reminding, like, I think if there's a way to write things down to remind yourself so that you're not always dependent on like some algorithm or some digital metric that you're succeeding, like I feel like that has been more encouraging to me because I don't necessarily have the digital metrics to go on. Now I did redo my website and my analytics have been very good. Like I'm getting organic reach for my website just because I changed my website. Just because I redid the whole thing and it's kind of like semi more SEO gauged. Like I'm getting like between like 30 and 100 site visits a day. So like it's just like little things like that. And that's not a ton of site visits, but it's like it's better than zero. Yeah. Which is what it was, Bonni. That's fair. So, you know, just celebrating the little wins. Like you don't have to be perfect overnight. You don't have to have it all together overnight. Just adding up those little things. So, yeah.
That's good.
So are you gauging something else other than social metrics?
Yeah, so I think other people definitely are important in this. And I think that I have put all of my eggs in that basket, and in like the masses of other people, this is where I can get tripped up. It's like how many people are telling me my presence matters. Gotcha. Kind of as a subconscious ticker I have working. And I've had to shift that to like what quality of people. Like go into some of Brene's Brown, like who's in there, Brene Brown's, who's in the arena with you. Yeah. Which is from her Dare to Lead book, if you've never read that before, of like who's actually got skin in the game with you, who sees you all the way. And so, you know, I think I do think of like Mark, my husband, and I think of you and Lauren, and I think of my friend Elaine, who she listens to this. Hi, Elaine. You know, like even her one time saying to me, like, Bonni, your experiences matter. Like, because I struggle with like, well, on paper and a degree. Right. I don't have very much. I don't have that much. Like I have a graphic design degree, so I can do that. You know, I feel confident in that. But even her being able to say to me like, no, your experiences, your lived experiences matter too. I think is important. But I think even when you were talking, I realized how much I treat myself like a ghost. Like I don't leave any imprint, and I just believe I don't leave any imprint at all. And so even just paying attention to the fact that like, and there's like an indent on my couch where I sit all the time. Yeah. You know, like hearing even last night, Caleb was after his baseball game, they got demolished. This one team they played is stacked and they handpicked their kids and they're all travel team. And it was upsetting. Yeah. Bork, you need to fix this. Yeah. Anyway, and so after the game, he's like, I don't want to play baseball anymore. I'm never playing again. It's so boring. And I was like, well, is this because you just lost the game and you didn't get any hits?
Yeah.
Like, maybe let's not make this choice when we're mad or when we're sad, because we make bad choices we regret later when we're mad and sad.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I just hate it. And I'm like, well, and you have to keep in mind, you're not playing soccer and baseball again at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
This
isn't gonna happen again.
Like, baseball season's in the spring, soccer's in the fall. Yeah. We're gonna keep them separated from here on out. And then fast forward to at home, Mark was like tucking him in at night, and Caleb was reprocessing his day, and he said something about, Dad, I think I only want to play baseball in the spring and only want to play soccer in the fall.
Nice.
Right. So he went from, I'm never playing baseball again, to like, baseball is hard today. I think I'm really tired. I'm paying attention to the fact that soccer and baseball at the same time for a 6-year-old is a lot.
Right. Yeah.
So like seeing those things, and then even just like, I think funny. My pottery habit is a good thing for me right now. This too. Because like, I can show you the clay before I touch it.
Yeah.
It is a cube. Yeah. It is useless. You know, like it's not doing anything. And so reminding myself that like, this berry bowl would not have existed had I not put my physical hands on it.
Yep.
And like done the work to shape it, and done the work to trim it, and done the work to like gouge some holes in it, which was harder than you would think it would be. I would
imagine just because they look very well done.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
The little toolies, jagged edges, and that threw me off.
Yeah.
That took me way longer than I expected. But anyway. Yeah. So I think things like that, of just like noticing my personal wife patina that I like leave on things.
Nice. Yeah. I like that.
Of like, oh wait, no, I'm a physical human being who makes physical differences, emotional differences, mental, spiritual, all of these things happen.
Yeah.
And learning I need to pay attention to those things more. So anyway.
Okay.
Now we've gone from, I feel like this was short, to now we're pushing. I put a timer on my watch this time, friends. We're still Team Tiny Mike.
It's all right. All good stuff. All good stuff. Yeah. So, but we'll wrap it up. And so this is the end of this series. And here's the thing. Like, even if you don't leave us a voice message, we want some affirmation.
Wow.
No, here's what I'll say.
I'm just kidding.
Do you like, I want to know if people like the series idea. Like, do you like hearing kind of the, like, a couple weeks of like the same kind of theme? Like, is it good to work through some of like this Enneagram knowledge on kind of like a serialized version of it?
Good.
So, let us know in the comments, or send us a voice message or something.
Or you can just type us a DM.
Yeah.
If you want to.
Yeah.
Leave us a review, or rate, all of those things.
Yeah. So other people can find us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And we'll be asking to hear from you more soon. John and I have ideas churning that we're not going to talk about, but I'm going to do that thing that people do to make you say,
something's coming.
Our wheels are churning.
Yeah.
And we can't quite share with you yet, but I can't wait until I can share with you. That was my influencer impression.
That's very good. That's very good, Bonni. Also, I feel like this makes us like true entrepreneurs. Like, we have more than one idea cooking.
It's true.
So watch out.
Oh, look out. Anyway. All right,
friends. We will see you next time.
Oh, wait.
Oh, go ahead.
We're on the internet.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. You took my part, so I totally skipped yours.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
We're also on the internet. And you can find John's fancy new website and the same website on the show notes.
Bonni, your website matters, and it's great.
It's great, but I haven't changed it since October, so there you go. Anyway.
Okay.
Okay, now John.
Okay. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.